Welcome to our pod, and by that I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now we are cycling through Legendborn, and we're doing a deep dive into Tracy Deonn's Legendborn series. And Hannah has a new microphone, so I sound better than last week, guys. My old microphone lasted, like, it was sad to be like, oh, this was the microphone we started the podcast with, and now it does not work.
The nostalgia is gone.
Laura already lost her first one, so it's
yeah. I've moved on a long time ago.
Laura's like, new microphone. Who? Like, no. But before we dive into the characters and themes of Legendborn, Laura, what's something you're reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So this is not something really new, but I got on Libro FM The Hobbit with the Andy Serkis narration. I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to use, because I had previously listened to it via Libby.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use my credit this month and I'm going to get The Hobbit to own. And I'm going to get the rest of the Lord of the Rings series because I've been listening to this to fall asleep. And it is the most peaceful thing that I've ever encountered. I love this narration. I don't think Travis Baldree, if you're listening, I'm sorry, but Andy Serkis may be the best narrator that I've ever heard. Like this, it's fantastic. He sings the songs.
Sorry to this man.
He's just so good. And why he didn't win any kind of Oscar for his role as Gollum is beyond me, because he really needed that. And
sorry to interrupt you, and I'm gonna definitely let you finish. But why are audiobook? I was doing that joke. I'm glad you picked up on it. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna let you finish, but like, why are some audiobook narrators just better than everyone else? And you're just like, what's going on?
So here's the thing. I've gotten like really critical with audiobooks to the point where I will listen to the snippet and I can tell just within a matter of that snippet whether or not I will enjoy that audiobook or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so like picky about a person's voice and how they're going to narrate it that I'm just like, nope, that's not going to work for me. I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I also will listen to, I have this problem especially with romances, I think, which I listen to a lot of romances.
Yeah.
But I'll listen to them and I'll think, I could have narrated this better. Because sometimes people are not very animated.
No.
You know what I mean? And they don't have the right voice for the story.
Talk to me just like that. And you're just
pretty much.
Not sexy. Like, what are you doing?
Exactly, where they're not getting into the story, or they're not. I mean, you don't always have to do like a bunch of different voices and everything to be a good narrator. But I do think you need to be reading the book with some different voice inflection. And there are some narrators that I'll listen to them and I'm like, okay, the author, I wish they would have just called me. I would have read this book for them. Because I actually am very good at reading books out loud. I used to substitute teach, and I would, granted these are children's books and middle grade books that I was reading, but I did a very good job at it to the point where the kids were really engaged. And they did, but I get like really into it, and middle grade books, like reading those out loud is my jam. But sometimes you just hear one of these books and you're just like, no, they're not doing a good job. I'm gonna have to get the print version.
So obviously, like, great for The Hobbit. I recently listened to all of the Hunger Game books. And they were read by Tatiana Maslany, who was She-Hulk and in Orphan Black. She did such a freaking good job as Katniss.
I can see that.
Her voice was perfect. And she like sang the songs and it was amazing. And I just got Ballads of Songbirds and Stinks and I listened to it all. And I was so disappointed in the narrator. And Laura, you will never expect when I tell you that I did not like him as an audiobook narrator. I was it was Santino Fontana. And it was awful. Like, it was not like, I mean, it wasn't awful, but it was not good. Like,
oh my gosh.
Okay. Ballads of Songbirds and Stakes has like multiple songs in it. And I don't know who didn't get it in Santino Fontana's contract that he should sing those as a freaking Broadway star.
I was going to say, he didn't Broadway performer.
He didn't sing any of them. He's
the voice of an angel.
He's the voice of an angel, and he just talked to them. His voices for the different characters were really off. And the only character I liked him reading as was like the not like there's, obviously this is a prequel, the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, and the guy who played like the Flickerman character, who was like the audio, like the
Caesar
announcer
Flickerman.
but like Caesar, like the previous Caesar Flickerman before Caesar
Oh,
Flickerman or
okay.
whatever.
The guy that had the job.
The guy who had the job before him, he was so great at that announcer voice. And I was like, yes, this is your bread and butter, is like announcer, like very animated, but like he was supposed to be a different type of role, and his voice did not match the role. And I was so angry that I was listening to Santino Fontana speak songs. Like
I'm
know that they
honestly
were
shocked by that.
I know, and I know that they were created for the book. So like obviously Suzanne Collins like would have had to have music written to these, but like she has Hunger Game monies. I'm sure she, like, the movie just came out and those were sung. So like at some point there had to have been music being able to do it. So like you had Santino Fontana in a recording room. Why was he speaking those songs? I was furious every time he spoke a song.
Weird.
I was so
well,
upset.
And here's the thing. I think we both need to note that, like, obviously The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings and The Hunger Games, they have the budget and the means to find really great narrators. The Lord of the Rings crew did it with Andy Serkis.
Yes.
And clearly they didn't do that with the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Just don't understand.
Give Santino some notes. You know he can do it.
Right. Like you just give him some notes, he'll sing it. I'm sure he's fine. But like sometimes Santino Fontana, like obviously very amazing singer, very impressive acting. Loved him as Greg on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Sometimes I wonder if he's a little bit of a diva just with like some of the choices that happen, where it's like he left Crazy Ex-Girlfriend and they were like, oh yeah, totally scheduling conflicts. He didn't know if it was going to keep going or not. He left early. But then there's like, he didn't want to come back. We hired another person, like we didn't even kind of check in with him. And then like speaking the Ballads of Songbirds, part of me wonders if he was like, I'm not singing that. Like, that's not my job. And it's like, well, sir,
that'd be extra.
Like, that's why you're here. It's a musical book. Like, it's this ballad. It's a ballad. Like,
I know that Santino Fontana is the narrator of Stephen King's The Institute, and I have listened to just the beginning of that. But I did quit that audiobook and bought the print version because I was like falling asleep and could not remember what was happening. So I'm wondering if maybe this just like his voice is too soothing. And I don't know. Maybe he's better suited for certain types of books. Maybe like The Institute is maybe more in his realm where it's like more mysterious and he gets to have one voice throughout because it's Stephen King. I don't know. But I definitely can see where you're coming from, thinking that maybe there's some diva vibes.
Yeah, like I was just like, sir, what's going on? Like I had to put like any kind of psychology on this situation because that's strange
though, because Santino is immensely talented, that that he can sing it and do different voices. I mean, anyone who's listened to the Tootsie soundtrack knows that is a possibility.
The amount of times I walk around saying I could care, but I don't. It's like out of this world because
I'm just thinking like
wine read.
Dorothy from Tootsie. He does all those voices and everything. So there's no doubt in my mind that he could have just like put on a voice and sang a song.
And I was like, is it because I don't believe him as like a bad character? And I was like, no, he's in Frozen movies. Like he is someone who should be able to do this, like no notes. And I was just so upset by it. So I'm still thinking about it. It's fresh in my mind. I finished the book last week and I've been thinking about it constantly. So you bringing up audiobook narration, I was like, and another thing, Santino Fontana will not sing parts. Like
interesting. I'm gonna get like really picky though about my audiobooks going forward. I've decided where it's just like the ones that I get on Libro are gonna be ones that have to be narrated by really good narrators. Like I'm just the ones that I can be like, yep, I listened to that and it was an audiobook. That's definitely going to be my Libby experience. But Libro FM, that's you got to be top tier. You got to be Emily Wu Zeller. You got to be Travis Baldree. You got to be Andy Serkis.
I googled I Googled this and Reddit's first thing is I'm disappointed about the narrator of the Ballad of Songbirds and
Oh my
Snakes audiobook.
gosh.
So usually when I listen to the audiobooks, they have narrators that really bring out the emotions that is supposed to be portrayed, but the narration of BSS disappointed me. Santino Fontana didn't really bring any emotions and just narrated the whole book in a monotone voice. Like, what the heck? It's a freaking Hunger Games sequel you're narrating. And don't even get me started on how he narrated Lucy Gray Baird's Ballad. They said I didn't mind most of it, but the singing bits were horrendous. Just felt like he was reading it. This does not go towards Lucy Gray, but Snow and the like Grand Dam doing the anthem. So like it's just like it was very weird. I wished, like I kept saying, like I just wish they got the original actor for Snow to do the narration because he would have brought
the guy from Pride and Prejudice 2005.
Yeah, like he would have brought something to it, but like the speak singing was just terrible. It just wasn't good. It's like, are you coming to the tree? And it's like, what are you doing? Like,
you know the melody.
Tatiana sang it beautifully. You're telling me you didn't listen to any of her renditions? And like she talked about, like she like did an interview at one of the end of them, so she's like, I've always been a huge fan. When I got this opportunity, I like jumped on it. I'm so thrilled to be here. And it's like it feels like Santino was like dragged kicking and screaming into this role. I was so upset.
Interesting.
Sorry, you were talking so beautifully. What else have you been reading?
So The Hobbit, I've been just loving this because I'm someone who has to listen to things to go to sleep. Like, 99% of the time I'm listening to ASMR, and I'm a huge fan of ASMR. Like, if you need any ASMR Rex, I've got you. But I just started listening to The Hobbit to fall asleep, and it's the most peaceful thing. And I don't know if it's because I've read it so many times that it's just like I can fall asleep to this and it doesn't bug me. Versus, like, I know they always have the option to like set a sleep timer on your audiobooks or whatever. If it's a book that I haven't read, I'm less likely to do that because I don't want to miss something and then be like, okay, so I'm at chapter 3, but I totally don't remember what happens in chapter 2.
Right.
So it's a lot easier with The Hobbit to just listen to it and fall asleep, and then I can pop back in and be like, oh, okay, cool, we're at this point. But Andy Serkis is phenomenal, and it's pretty much like listening to the movie. It's so good. Awesome. I love it so much. I think I've wrecked this before, and I've talked about it with other people. Like when Critter XD came on, we were sharing our love for this narration. But
yes, you guys were.
This is phenomenal. If you are a LOTR, the Hobbit fan, obviously get those because they're just great. They're so good.
Maybe I should do a reread of Lord of the Rings via audiobooks so that I can finally appreciate them the way they're supposed to and put some respect on their
Did you read all of them? Did you read Return of the King?
Yep.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if you had finished the series.
I have finished the series. They're okay. Like they're just not quite a Hannah
not your jam.
But yeah, I just feel like there's just a lot of talk about wars and you know me and battle scenes.
That's fair. Yeah.
I don't know why we thought I would be like perfect for those, but it's just like, oh, I'm just reading battle scenes. Am I paying attention?
I have like obviously sentimental attachment to them because I read them when I was younger.
Right. I love the movies. I think the movies
are the best adaptations I've probably ever seen. But
I don't have respect for myself for disliking these books before people like come at us anywhere. I don't have respect for myself for disliking these books. I don't think it makes me sound cool or anything. They just happen to be books that I think are fine. Like I think I gave
fine to just say like, 3 stars. Hey, this is not my jam. Like
that's so well written.
That's fine.
And I think like so many people are like,
and here's the thing, there's plenty of people that love them.
Yeah, there are plenty of people out there.
I don't think the Tolkien estate is like hurting because one person is like, yeah, they're sitting there just okay,
wanting Hannah to be obsessed with these books. Just why isn't she into us?
Yeah,
they're texting.
I think like, they're fine.
I've tried so many times to get her to like chat and respond to me, and she just won't.
Yeah, they're fine.
I got engaged at a little Hobbit area house. Okay, guys,
you're putting in the work.
We're fine. I'm putting in the work. Okay.
You're attempting.
I have seen the first Hobbit movie. I have read The Fellowship of the Rings multiple times. Okay.
Like I will say, like, I like the Hobbit movies, but they're not my favorite. I And here's the thing, I saw them multiple times in theaters, all of them, all three of them. And I prefer the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I think the
Yeah,
Hobbits are fine, the movies, but they're not my favorite movies.
that's fair.
The LOTR trilogy, though, the movies, top notch, some of my absolute favorite movies. But
Good.
yeah, I have very fond memories of Lord of the Rings, especially Return of the King, because I can remember I think I was like a freshman when I was reading that in high school, and I can remember like being under my covers with a flashlight reading that book. Like I love that one.
Oh, good.
But yeah, this I'm probably gonna get the rest of this series and just like listen to it to fall asleep for several months now. It's so good, and I love Andy Serkis
Good.
so much. Um, what else did I read? I'm not done with The Hobbit, so you'll hear about this for several
Oh,
weeks
I'm
as I'm
sure.
falling asleep.
Even after she's done with it, guys, you're
Yes,
still gonna hear about it.
you'll
What are you talking
never hear the
about?
end of this. So
Exactly.
totally different thing. I read Chainsaw Man Volume 1 by Tatsuki Fujimoto,
Mm,
and there's been so much like hype surrounding Chainsaw Man. And so many people were saying like this is like a feminist story, that there's a reason like women are surrounding themselves in this fandom, like they're
mm.
getting all into this fandom and like loving Chainsaw Man. And I was like, okay, maybe I need to read this. Like the cover didn't appeal to me at first and like the concept, and I was like, I don't know if this is my kind of story, but if this is like a feminist tale that people are like, okay, yeah, uh I'm I'm in. So I read the first volume and I'm like, this must be one that you have to have grow on you because
You're
after
like,
the
I
first
don't
volume, like these are short. Like manga volumes are very short, where it's like 120 pages, and
fair.
obviously there's only like two pieces of dialogue on
Hmm.
each page, so it's not a lot of writing. But it follows Denji, who is a poor person who literally has all of the worst type of situations happen to him that can possibly happen, and is kept in poverty by people who are higher up, and
Okay.
is willing to do just about anything to get out of poverty. Like he at one point early on in the volume eats a cigarette in order to just get a
Oh,
single coin in order to have some money to buy some food. And Denji is living in a shack. His parents have died. Denji's living in a shack, and he's living there with a devil dog, like a demon dog that is like part chainsaw.
okay.
And what Denji does to make money is hunts demons. And this is this is must be a common theme within manga that I've not realized, the hunting of demons. And I don't know what that is, if this is just like a cultural thing that people like to talk about this in their books and media. I'm unsure. Someone enlighten me. But Rooster Fighter also had this demon hunting theme. But anyways, Denji ends up being tricked at a job that he gets and is mortally wounded, but had made a deal with his pet devil dog to
Okay.
incorporate the devil within him in order to save his life. And so that's what the dog does, and it turns him into Chainsaw Man. And
Hmm.
then this book continues to follow Denji as Chainsaw Man, who is brought into like a government society in order to hunt down devils, demons, and to do away with them for the government. But Denji has like a specific list of things that he wants to accomplish in life, and one of them is to have a girlfriend and to be able to touch boobs. And it is mentioned so many times about like,
What the?
maybe I could touch her boobs. Maybe and he like makes an acquaintance that he does not know that well that is a woman, and he's like, maybe she would let me touch her boobs. I think I'm gonna go along with what she wants me to do because it could be my opportunity to touch boobs. And I'm like, what is happening here?
Sure, my guy. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for
Like
sharing.
touching boobs is like okay, like what? But it was interesting. It was not what I expected, and
Yeah.
I don't know where the feminist and like
Yeah. Weird.
interesting woman dynamics start to come into this. Just this first volume, I'm like, I'm not a big fan of the whole like my goal in life is to touch boobs.
Right.
Like, what?
It's not?
But
That's not your like goal in life?
maybe this is a long series, so maybe it's
goes
something
on.
where it's like several volumes. You get into it and you're like, okay, now we're starting to see a shift, but I don't know how willing I am to continue with after this first volume. So if
Right.
anyone has read Chainsaw Man and can give me a little more insight, does it become more interesting and less about like, I would like to touch some boobs? Like,
Can someone tell me if there's less boob touching in the next books?
I mean, there isn't any boob touching.
Well, that's fair. If he finally
wants
touches
there
a
to be.
boob and he gets over it.
If he finally achieves that goal and can move on to some other goals, can someone let me know?
Just
And how
like,
many volumes I have to read for
oh
this
my
to
gosh.
become like an interesting story about women? And I
And
can
not
definitely see
boob
this being
touching.
an interesting story about like society and the way that we treat poor people,
Yeah.
because that is prevalent from the start. But yeah,
The
I'm
boob
unsure
stuff.
like how feminism works its way into this, and I'm more interested in why women have rallied around this and created such a big part of the fandom.
Right.
But uh it must really shift. So if anyone can enlighten me, please do so. I would love to hear how this changes and how
Love
many
to
volumes you
hear
have
it.
to make it in.
Thank you so much. Please
Thank
DM
you.
here.
Yeah, we need to know. Like Hannah would be interested too, I think.
I am very interested in this. Thank you for pointing that out. Please let
Tell
me
us on
know.
Discord. DM Hannah personally. Her phone number
DM. My phone number is 555-555-555-55.
8675-309.
309. I got your number on my wall. So you got it. You got it. Sorry.
And then just like some other things I've been reading, I'll just tell people check out the Sphinx competition, the speculative fiction indie novella competition or championship,
Mhm.
I think it is. I've been reading some books for Team Before We Go blog, and
Good.
they've been really good. So check out a lot of those books. I mean, these indie authors are putting in a lot of work. Many of these people
Mhm.
have multiple jobs and they're doing this on the side to try and pursue something that they love and to just get more people to read about fantasy and fiction stories.
Yeah.
So please support them and check out all of these books. And some of them are so good. I can't get over it. And some of them are not long enough. I wanted more out of some of them.
Oh, that's
So,
good.
so yeah, definitely check out that. I won't talk in detail on it because the competition is ongoing
Yeah.
and I don't feel comfortable doing that. But yeah, check out all of those involved in the competition, and I would highly recommend like supporting the authors involved. So yeah, that's other stuff I've been reading. As far as watching, I can't really think of anything at the moment. I could talk about
Okay.
some more Marvel. I have been rewatching Obi-Wan Kenobi on
Mm.
Disney Plus just because I like that I like that show.
I
And on a
didn't
rewatch,
realize that
I
that
like
was
it
a
more.
TV show on. Like I knew it, but like sometimes with the Star Wars ones, there's so many that I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you which ones are which and why they all exist. But also I feel like you felt that way about Marvel for a really long time, so I
I
shouldn't
still
throw
feel that way
stones at
about
glass
Marvel,
houses.
honestly.
Fair enough.
I come at these fandoms from different perspectives, and I think it's because Star Wars seems much more accessible,
Yeah.
and there's not like the high number of shows that are coming out back to back to back to back to back, like
Yeah, that's
within one
fair.
year. So there seem to be gaps with Star Wars where you can get caught up,
Right.
even
I
though they're
will
still producing more stuff.
I did see that there is a Chainsaw Man manga animated series
There
with
is.
the
Yes, it's
English
on
dub.
Hulu.
So I'd be interested if you watched that and let me know what you thought.
Yeah, I think
Um,
it's pretty much exactly like the
oh,
manga.
okay.
So
Well,
that because
then
that's
just
how
lots of
Spy
boob
Family
touching.
is.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So yeah, I'm unsure. There's no boob touching Hannah, not yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. The promise of boobs, the hopefulness of
Just
boobs,
dreams, just dreams.
just dreams of boobs, the
But
dreams of boobs.
yeah, I've been watching Obi-Wan Kenobi, rewatching that, and I really enjoy that show. Like on a rewatch, I think I like it more. I was
Hmm.
pretty hard on it the first time through, but on a rewatch, I like it more. And I've also been rewatching Star Wars Rebels, and that's a children's animated show on Disney Plus, but that is a really well done children's animated show, and it's become just like my perfect background show if I'm doing something at home. I'll just have Rebels on in the background, and
That's good.
I've already watched it, so I know what happens, and I can just listen to them talking. But I would highly recommend that one if you're going to check out any kind of animated stuff. So,
Okay.
all right,
Sounds good.
Hannah, you're up. What have you been reading, watching, and or
Well,
enjoying?
as you all know, I did not enjoy Santino Fonte's
Hated that.
performance. I was just very underwhelmed, sir.
I'm curious, what like narrators do you like? Do you have any specific ones that you're like, oh, this one's really good?
I don't honestly have favorites because I honestly don't remember them all. A lot
Okay.
of times I just kind of let them wash over me. So I'm not someone who like knows different ones where it's like, oh, I listened to this one, great. Usually I'm one to like I usually know which types of audiobooks I'll like. So usually like that helps pick like narrators where it's like, oh, this one's like a little bit more but I really liked Tatiana's version of the Hunger Games. I thought that was so well done, and to go straight into Santino's was pretty disappointing. But
yeah,
I'm also slowly still making my way through Braiding Sweetgrass, which I mentioned last week. That's said by the author, which I also really like. A lot of times I listen to a lot of nonfiction on audiobook, and those are often read by the authors, and I always think that that's pretty cool and pretty different. So I like that.
Yeah, memoirs are usually read by the authors.
Yeah.
And I like that too.
Right.
You get more emotions involved.
Except for Britney Spears's, which
who read hers?
Michelle Williams.
How random.
Like apparently it's Britney Spears. She doesn't want to read her own book. She probably didn't write all of her own book. Like she just doesn't. So
Prince Harry read all 37,000 hours of his book.
But like, were you not around for that? Like there was like a huge thing about Michelle Williams reading Britney Spears's memoir. She had there's a discussion of like Justin running into like a rapper and he's like, yo, what's the Izzy or something, and it's just like Oscar award-winning actress Michelle Williams going, what's the Izzy? Like I forget what the words were, but it was like really I can't.
I'm curious if that book was good.
One of my cousins read it and I was like, oh, what were your thoughts? Like I was interested, and she was like, it's fascinating to hear this background stuff, but she's a terrible writer.
See, I'm out.
So, it's just
I'm out. Because people said that Jessica Simpson's, because what is hers? Open Book is what it's called, maybe. I think her memoir was apparently really good, and I was like, I'm kind of surprised by that one too. But
I've heard really good things about her memoir. Yeah. No, here's so there's a viral clip that features Williams reading the singer's words. She continued, one day, Jay and I were in New York and I'm going to read it just like Michelle Williams does.
Okay.
Going to parts of town I had never been to before. Walking our way was a guy with a huge blinged out medallion. He was flanked by two giant security guards. Jay got all excited and said out loud, oh yeah, faux shiz, genuine. What's up, my homie? Could you imagine Oscar award-winning actress Michelle? Faux shiz.
I am having trouble, but
I can play you the clip if you really wanted to know.
That's okay. That's okay.
Everyone should look it up.
Yeah, everyone look that up. I'm just gonna go with Hannah's version.
It's so funny. I didn't know that you didn't know about that.
I had no idea about that. Like
so
I knew that the book came out and everything. I had no idea that she did not narrate it. I have heard all the like stories about like all these terrible things surrounding.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah,
Justin
I'm sure
Timberlake
like Britney Spears
and
is like,
everything.
I'm done doing this. Like you guys can pay someone else to do this. The book will make
money.
What? Like
she's been through it, so let her do what she wants fine, at this point. But strange choice. They honestly should have gotten what's her name from SNL that does the Britney Spears impersonation. She's good.
But I'll do a more recent book this week because Laura was interested in hearing my thoughts on a book, and I was like, you have to wait for the podcast. And I've been going through my backlog. I won't tell you. Yeah, I will not tell you. I read The Golem and the Genie from Helene Wecker. This is a like magical realism book that's told like very much based in folklore and everything in 1899 New York. And there is, at the beginning of the book, there is a golem who is created kind of to be the wife of someone who thinks he's not going to find anyone, and he wants to bring over a quote unquote wife into America. So he has someone make him one who will be obedient and curious and stuff like that.
That's
And then so the golem is created, and she like very small spoilers, like she gets separated from this master, and then she has to like build her own life in New York, not really knowing anything and being a brand new like thing. And like it's very based on folklore, so golems are supposed to be kind of like very strong beings who are meant to be kind of told what to do at all times. And so there's a lot of like push and pull from there. And then there's also this Jin who is like awakened out of a vessel after thousands of years in New York. And him like, and he has tied to this like iron chain around his wrist where he is not free. And so it's kind of about them finding their own way. And it's like it's a chunk of a novel. I read it for my book club, and it's very much about like nature versus nurture, and like kind of like what makes a person good versus bad, and like selfish versus like, you know, willing to be there for others. And it's like a very well done novel. It's super fascinating. It's really well done. I really enjoyed this novel. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was just like, the history is amazing. It took this person many years to write it. You could tell she did her homework onto like the different facets that she did a deep dive on. The two characters were really good foils for one another, like with, you know, how they go throughout the world and how they view the world. And it was just very interesting to see, like, you know, he is a Syrian man, or he like holds himself out to be a Syrian man, and how he was able to interact with the world in 1899 versus how a golem will do it, even though they're like beings who have control over, you know, all of their surroundings, what it means to be a woman versus a man, and all of those things. And so it's just like, it was a very beautiful novel. It's so well written. It was like beautiful imagery, great. And I really liked it a lot. There are some like clunkier parts where it's like, why is this plot here? But like, I'm okay with it because I really enjoyed this book. The one thing I will say is, like, you mentioned it to me when you told me, you were like, oh, I bought that book and the sequel. My first thought was, there's a sequel.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I don't think I want to read the sequel.
Interesting.
So the book
5-star book, you enjoyed it so much, but you don't want to continue on.
I don't think I want to. I think it will be diminishing returns. Like, for how thick these books are, the book feels like it's almost a standalone, like beautiful, well done on its own.
I can see that, like, not wanting to ruin it.
Yeah, like I kind of like, it has this like a little bit like, it leaves some unanswered questions, but I had very little interest in how some of those questions would be answered. Like, I was like, oh, I love that they're unanswered. I love that they're just out in the open, just being themselves. And I don't really need a second book to tell me what's going on. There's actually a third book coming out, and again, just don't really feel like it. Like,
how many are in this series? I'm actually looking at a Goodreads.
So she's writing the third book right now.
And is that the final? It's just gonna be a trilogy.
I have no idea. Like, it feels like it was meant to be a standalone originally, and then she had like an idea to continue it on, so she did. But it's one of
the
those
spacing between them is huge.
Yeah, the spacing between them is huge. She's had children in between. She's had a life in between. She was like, oh, I just came back to it. I had another idea, so I continued with it. And it's like, that's great. I don't think I need it. Like,
Wasn't necessary.
I think I'm just okay. Like, I think it's beautiful, great, happy to have it. But like, one of the people in my book club has read the second book. She's like, oh yeah, it dives a bit more into this part of the book. And I was like, oh, I didn't really care about that. And it's like, oh, it opens this character up. And I was like, I didn't really care about her. And so it was like, the parts of the novel that like could be expanded on technically apparently do get expanded upon. But I was like, oh, did they need that? Like, weren't they just fine as they were? So, you know, it's fine, but I loved this book so much. I think I'm okay.
Sure.
Sometimes, like,
I get that.
Yeah, that's also, I love, like, a lot of people love the Elena Ferrante series, the My Brilliant Friend series, and I've read those. and those are really good, but they're so thick that sometimes it's like, wow, this is a deeply historical novel that I just read 500 pages of, and you're telling me I get 3 more of those.
Honestly, sometimes you do just read a book though, and you're like, this was great. And then you hear about like, oh, they're coming out with another one, and you're like, but this was fine on its own. We don't need any more. This doesn't need to be a series. And I think maybe we push authors a little bit hard sometimes to continue on with a series
Mhm.
when it's just like, no, we need you to write other things, follow another
Right.
passion if you want to. Like, don't feel like you have to be stuck on this one thing.
Right. It's not necessary. I could be done. Like, I could be done.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm sure it's great. She's a great novelist. She's very talented, but I would rather pick up a different book of hers than
Sure.
read a continuation of the same story. It just felt like these characters were kind of done.
Except for Jim Butcher, we, I guess, need him to
continue on forever.
write about Harry Copperfield Dresden until he dies.
Keep going on and on and on, apparently. So,
Write 4,000 books, Jim Butcher, within this one series.
And then, for watching, I'm still watching Taskmaster. I'm on season 7, I think. You and I watched some clips, or I know I'm on season 6.
Mm-hmm.
You and I watched some clips of this particular season of Taskmaster. It's like, and weirdly enough, like I was like, oh, I haven't seen this episode yet. That's really upsetting. The lady who makes the one guy sit on a cake, I haven't had to watch that happen yet.
I don't
Outside of that one experience, she is my favorite character.
Oh, really?
She's not a character, she's a real person. Like, this is a reality TV show.
Sure.
She is the most delightful person to watch do Taskmaster. Like, they have in the series, like, it's episode 1, so I'm not ruining anything, but they have a task where they like they probably blindfold them, but they put them in like a cupboard, and they have to like come out and find their way home and like kiss a picture of the Taskmaster like closest to 20 minutes. And she's just walking around the area going, oh, this is just a lovely day. It's just so lovely out. It's so nice. She's like, I just love this task. And so they like pull back to her in the studio, and she was like, it was just so brilliant. I was having the best time. And they're like, she's just having herself a walk. She's just walking around the area. And
you know what? I can appreciate someone who just enjoys life that much.
Right?
They're just like, you know what? This is a great day. How wonderful.
It's so, and there's like a task where they have to do it as a group. And they're like trying to figure out, like, it's like you have to find the link and then do the link 100 times, And she's with these 2 men, and they're sitting there going like, and I'm gonna ruin a little bit of Taskmaster, but like they're like, there's a H. What does that mean? What's that mean? And she looks out and she goes, there was a hops. I think we're supposed to hop. That they're not listening to her. And so she just is in the background with these 2 men, like, there's an H. What else? And she just starts hopping. She does it 100 times. The guy blows the whistle, and she's like, we're done. And they're all like, what a scathing indictment of the world that women must live in. She's just sitting there like, she solved it. It's great. He's like, in under a minute, she knew exactly what they were supposed to do.
And everyone ignored her.
And so she was finally like, just do it myself.
Oh my gosh.
So funny. It's a very good season. And there's like one guy in it where you're watching him, and it's like, I keep saying, I really want to dislike this man. Like, he seems like I would hate him in real life. He kind of seems like one of those, like, a little bit of macho man, or like, but I'm so charmed by him in every task, because every time you think he's going to be kind of a jerk, he's just the nicest person. And it's like,
well, that's good.
I think we're right, but I think also, like, he's not bad. Like, so that's fun to watch. So, overall, just having a fun time. But
good.
Yeah. So I've been watching Taskmaster, and I continue to watch Psych. We've been in a huge Psych kick. Some episodes do not hold up well at all.
You're on a kick of
I'm just it's just
watching episodes
lots of
that do not
shows.
hold up.
Yeah, but
It
like
was
John
Castle
Cena was in the
before.
last episode. Like, and I'm like, what is John Cena
John
doing in
Cena does
here?
all sorts of random things.
I know, and he's playing the brother of a character where it's like you two shouldn't exist in the same family, and like John
Oh,
Cena shouldn't exist in this universe. Like, what are you doing, sir? Um, so yeah, like I mean, it shows from the early 2000s. I'm also still watching Ugly Betty, and there are so many moments where I'm like, wow, rough crowd.
yeah.
um, what you gonna do? So but yeah, that's what I'm reading, watching, and or enjoying. So
I dig
shall
it.
we dive into the characters and themes of Legendborn?
Yes.
Some characters who do not hold up, but because they're terrible
You
and
know what?
racist.
There's a bunch of characters that I feel like we just get brief
Hmm.
mentions of, and then we kind of just we like tap in and then tap out on them. And I think that several of them are just bad.
I
Like,
mean, isn't a character just internalized and externalized racism? And all of these characters are just that.
yes.
Like Tor, Russ, like all these characters, they're very much the like, some of them are various shades of well-meaning white people who have internalized
Hmm.
racism, where it's like, we're totally fine with you as long as
As you're
you're
not in
this,
charge.
yeah, as long as you're just the squire to the guy who's in charge, where you're always going to defer to them, and you guys are just a quote unquote partnership, but he's in charge.
Yeah.
And we're totally comfortable with that until you question your place, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden it's, we were born for this, we have a right to it, you weren't
And you
trained,
don't.
you don't deserve this. And it's all just a whole lot of bullshit, because
Hmm.
it doesn't, like, you guys were all born into roles, you didn't do
Yes.
anything to deserve them, you just happen to be born with this lineage or whatever, but you think you deserve it because you were quote unquote, because you had the
Had the privilege of
privilege
being
of being
raised
trained in these
within
like
this.
communities. Yes. And so when someone else comes in and they're like, hey, yes, I have the same birthright, mine came through different ways, but you should still
Hmm.
respect them. All of a sudden it's like, well, then we have to rethink birthright.
Yeah.
And they want to change the
Then we want to
rules.
change the rules because we
Hmm.
don't like how the rules work now.
Yes, because they don't work for us.
Hmm.
And that also shows itself when she's talking about like what they did to, and again, like, this book is purposely very much like rich white people and then other people, like uh
Yeah.
her friend and Bree, um Alice, I think, is the friend's name. I'm so
Yes,
sorry.
Alice.
Alice, Bree, like those people are like purposely not white for very specific reasons,
Hmm. Hmm.
and white people, so like it's very based on white people's view of the world and being
Yes.
like, well, we want the rules when they work for us, but the second you put us out of our comfort zone, that's a problem. And that's something that and like, because it's a white person novel, you also have the flavor of like, well, because they never even considered racial diversity, uh they have to talk about how the fact that like, oh yeah, a lot of oldest daughters got murdered for a while
Yep.
because you couldn't have a white woman in power either, and now these white women are in power, and then you have the intersectionality part of it, where it's like, well, these white women are also oppressors because, again, you walk through a door and you shut it after you, so
Yep.
everyone else is on the other side.
Which is completely evident in what's his name's mom,
Yes.
that shows up and is quote unquote nice to an extent, and then she becomes literally violent when she finds out that Bree is going to be the squire to Nick.
Which is also a huge complaint that like a lot of people of color have about white people, where it's like, I'm always constantly afraid of a white person because you guys have the ability to become violent. And
Hmm.
that is shown in this book in very like literal terms, where like Bree is in a group of white people and all of a sudden people are ready to tear her apart
Yes.
because they feel she doesn't have a right to be in the room.
I think a big thing that I take away from this book is that it's very much about Bree's experience being like othered You know what I mean? Where
Mm-hmm.
she's within a group of white people all the time and she's constantly treated as other by
Right.
them.
Mm-hmm.
And how she has to really, even when she doesn't realize it, she's protecting her own emotions and her own well-being by trying to get herself into a place of safety by controlling what she says, like
Mm-hmm.
who she's around, what she's going to be doing next. And a lot of it is unconscious that she's just had to grow up like this. But
Right.
I I think it's interesting throughout most of this book that she's doing these things to it's a preservation
Yeah.
of herself and she's doing these things to take care of herself and to keep herself safe. And especially in like those situations where we don't see her often like talk back about
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that happen, but she does some. But I think you can look at some of these situations and say like, well, why wouldn't she, react to that or whatever? And it's like, who does she have there to help her? Who does she
Mm-hmm.
have on her side? What grounds does she have to be able to like go for someone when they're all opposing her?
Right.
It's a safety issue for her. And obviously the arguments against her are completely unfounded,
Right.
but she has to look out for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's really interesting though that like even in the situations where she's not necessarily like trying to like avoid things or whatever, she's still unconsciously like looking out for her well-being.
Right. I also think it's interesting. Brie as a character is very interesting because she is coming from the South in America, which is its own cultural landscape. And a huge part of this book is her dad talking about how she hasn't had community very much,
Hmm.
which is like a realistic view for a lot of people who,
Yep.
like, in certain circumstances, didn't get to be part of, like a Black community. And he's like, well, now
Well,
that
I
you
think
go,
you and I both know, like within our own communities growing up, that they were predominantly white, and we would
Mhm.
make like I remember in high school there was one kid who was black, only
Yep.
one, and I'm sure you had like a similar experience.
Well, I
And
told remember my freaking school that had like 70, like it had 200 people, and we did a thing of Oklahoma, and we
Mhm.
cast the one Black kid we had as the farmhand in
Oh
Oklahoma.
gosh.
And remember, it was like, yeah, we all thought that was a bad take. And you were like, I literally saw that musical, and we all talked about how you guys
Hmm.
did that. And it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's inappropriate because there's one Black student. So
Yeah.
what was the school thinking? Like, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like things like that where it's like it's hard it's so hard to think about like growing up in a community like that is just one situation that would have
Hmm.
happened to that person, but just think about like growing up in a community where you are the only person who
Hmm.
can know about your own experience and the things that you're dealing with. And so I think that yeah, we're getting a lot of that Bree has grown up like that, and
Yes.
then she's going into a college that is like that where all of these people they like Bree's the only black person they know,
Yeah.
and she's dealing with a lot of
A
that
lot of
even like
racism, just like not even
hmm
internalized, like it's external
yeah.
racism that she has to put up with. And like
Hmm.
to the point where even like Alice, her best friend, has reactions that don't always seem like legitimate when
Hmm.
considering like all of Bree's background or all of, like it feels like Bree has a lot of people like who quote unquote don't see race around her, where they're
Yeah.
like, oh, we just love you who you are. But like they're not seeing like Nick's actions. He often puts Bree in danger because he
Hmm.
doesn't seem to understand the realities of who
He
Bree
doesn't
is.
he doesn't recognize his own privilege is what a lot
Hmm.
of it is. And he's had moments in the book where he'll say just do this or just do that, and she's like, yeah, I literally can't do that, like you don't
Yeah.
understand. You have Hannah, you and I know as just like women there are certain things that we are unable to do in certain
Mhm.
spaces but that men can do.
Yes.
And
Legitimately, this week, my fiance and I were talking, and I was like, I love your audacity as a white man that you get to sit in a meeting and say that out loud. Because, like, a woman would not be able to.
but yeah, I think there are so many of those moments, and Hannah, you and I can't relate to being a person of color,
No.
but I think we can. recognize that there are so many experiences that people of color have that we cannot understand.
Right. And we can just accept that that is the reality and make sure that we're like trying to be there in any way we can. And that's the thing.
Trying to be supportive and also to keep people safe.
Yes. And that is like the most frustrating parts of this novel, where you know that like we kind of said we do not see Nick as a viable love interest.
No.
Because he does not seem to know his own privilege and he will not keep her safe. And that is not good for a long-term relationship, where like if Bree were in a better place, she may see some of his actions for how wrong they are.
Bree as a character, I think, is really great.
Yes.
She's obviously both of our favorite characters.
I mean, she's the main character, and everyone else around her, like, she does frustrating things, but she does frustrating things that you're like, yeah, she's a teenager and she's grieving.
But like so much of it is just like it makes sense and it's relatable. Yeah. Like obviously I think the other big portion of this novel is the grief that surrounds Bree. And it's interesting and also frustrating to see the ways that the other characters deal with her handling her grief and how they want to rush the process and how they're not as understanding and how there are misguided attempts to either sympathize or empathize or to try and help her cope. And I really think it's an interesting depiction of a person trying to go through the process of understanding their grief.
Right. And like, as someone who can speak to grief of losing a mom, I can't speak to being a teenager who lost it. And I always say that like losing a parent is a uniquely awful experience that is unique to each person. But once you're in the club, you kind of have some kind of community around it. And again, Bree doesn't have that community, like, which is probably why she has that weird connection to Sel or Nick, where they both are people who do not have their mothers. And there is that kind of, well, at least we understand each other on this level.
Yeah.
Like, it boggles my mind every time someone's like, well, you lost your mom 3 months. And this book has so many good ties to like reality that like it's frustrating for me as someone who has grieved for the loss of a parent that they were incredibly close with, to hear someone say like, it's been 3 months. Right. And you're just like, wow, I remember where I was at 3 months. I remember crying to Veronica on Marco Polo and like sobbing to the point of not being able to be heard because Veronica knew something of what I was feeling. And she was the only person I felt comfortable talking to. Or just like the grief of just not having a person in your life is like an insurmountable thing. And to hear people like invalidate it, it's like, yeah, people do that with parents, because there is that weird like, well, yeah, you lost your parent, but like everyone loses their parent. And it's like, but you don't lose them at age 16. Like, you don't lose them and have to watch your dad grieve their spouse. Like,
it's a much different experience to be someone that's like 60 and loses a 90-year-old parent.
Exactly. Where it's just like, I always said when I lost my mom, like that first year, I was like, I will forever be a woman who lost her mother in her 20s. Like, and I was 29, but like, that's still true. Like, I will always know what it was like to grieve a mom when you shouldn't have to. Like, I talk about it all the time. Like, I just sobbed this week about like my mom not being able to try on wedding dresses with me. Like, those are just moments that like the pain is just as sharp as it was before. And it's uniquely terrible. And like watching a teenager struggle with that is a very interesting thing that Tracy Deonn does so well. And Bree is a very dynamic character because she can do that, which is why I really didn't like Patricia. Like, she was a terrible therapist for a teenager grieving. Like,
and I think that's interesting because I've seen a couple people on Instagram that said they really liked Patricia.
I did not.
Where they were Patricia. Like, Patricia and Bree are the only characters I trust, and I was like, really?
Side-eye to Patricia.
I trust no one.
Like, this is also a huge theme that happens in this book, but happens in a lot of books. It's like people who love therapists but don't always understand like what therapists are approved for. Therapists are licensed to treat you in a certain way that is appropriate. Like, it's like any storyline in a TV show where you see a therapist like start a relationship with their client. That therapist lost their license.
Yes.
You're not allowed to do that. It's illegal. It's literally like it goes against their barred license for them to do that. They would lose their license. Same with attorneys. They're not supposed to date their clients. Like you should lose your license, especially if you're like one-on-one attorney and there's no like any
right, no third party
distinction. So that's just, it's not good. And I understand that, like, I think Patricia means well, but I hated her as a therapist character.
Yes.
Because there's
I
never
like
any therapy.
Yes. I like Patricia from the standpoint of her being someone that was able to provide a small community for Bree.
Yes.
Because she finally felt like she was in a safe space with people who understood her own experience when she was with Patricia, and I can't remember the other character's name.
Meredith? Or no. I forget. I'm so sorry. There's so many names.
She was the one that was able to like connect with dead people.
Yes. She was the other medium.
Yes. But yeah, I like Patricia from that aspect. I also like that she gave us some more like background on Rootcraft.
Yes.
I thought that was good, but I completely agree with you, Hannah, that from like a therapy standpoint, she was not the right therapist, and she's definitely like I feel like especially in this type of situation, she needs to kind of let Bree guide how the healing is going to go.
Yes.
And she was maybe expecting something different out of this.
Right.
Weirdly. And then also trying to incorporate things into this sessions that were not appropriate and not her place to do so. And also just kind of like directing. I guess I'm getting back to my initial point was that she's more so directing this in a way that she wants the conversation to go and to what points they should be talking about, which was like more interest in like her powers and stuff like that. And then when it came back to like, no, I kind of needed to talk about my loss of my mother.
Mom. And she's like, I can't. Like, you had way too much grief when it came to that.
Unfortunately, I don't think that you're a good client.
Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, that part was, I liked her as a character. I would have liked her if she was like a professor that she just got a connection to when there wasn't that weird.
Yes, I think that would be better, honestly, if she was a professor or like some kind of like guidance counselor or something, like maybe not guidance counselor even, but someone who's not a therapist.
Counselor is not like a person who's supposed to be like, hey, I'm helping your mental health journey. Like, it's the weird like therapist. This is what you are licensed. Yeah, I think
that title as therapist, if you remove that from the story and give her a different title, Patricia becomes much less problematic.
Yeah, she becomes so much less problematic because it's not like, well, I have to fire you as a client because I didn't realize you were grieving.
Yeah, what are you doing? If she was a guidance counselor, it'd be like, yeah, I don't think we should spend time together anymore because I didn't realize you were going through all these things. And it's like, oh, okay,
that's fair. Like, and like, yeah, the guidance counselor being like, I need to sign you up with someone else because like a guidance counselor is not for your mental health journey. Or like, and guess what? Therapists do fire their clients sometimes if they're like, I don't think I'm the person to help you. But Patricia cross lines. It wasn't Bree crossing those lines. Bree is 16. Like, no. So I did like Patricia as like,
I also kind of question like why her dad waited for that opportunity to get her in therapy.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's been 3 months, so
like, I feel like he waited for a weird opportunity. I get that he is also grieving and going through a lot, and it's mentioned in the book that like it's difficult for Bree to even handle a lot of what he's going through because he kind of wants her to be like a sounding board for him.
Yeah.
And that's really hard for her because she's like, I'm a teenager. I can't deal with all of this.
No.
And so that's a lot to put on a child. But I just find the timing of it to be a little strange where it's like, why would you wait for all these things to be piling up at one moment here and to be like, you know what, we're going to get you in therapy right now. You've been at school for 3 days and you had 2 incidents in 3 days that don't make a lot of sense, but it sounds like you're going to be in big trouble. So I'm going to get you in therapy. And yeah, I just felt like the timing of it was weird.
It's so funny, but like this took place over the course of 2 weeks. That is the funniest part of this, and it never stops being funny. Like, she is
I
now
mean, I
in
don't think it's
love
that
with
funny. I don't like it. I would have much preferred if this book took place over, we talked about this last time. It would have
It
been better
needed
if
to be
this
a
took place
semester.
over a semester.
It needs to be at least a semester. She's not in love with Nick. Ma'am, you do not know his favorite color. Like, you do
How
not
many middle
know.
grade books are there where it starts off like the beginning of the school year and it ends at the end of the school year?
Right.
And then we have the summer off. And then when we come back, we're like recapping everything that happened in the previous school year while they're getting ready to go back to
Also,
school.
like, Nick literally turned back into the fold of this secret society, had a better relationship with his dad, then all of a sudden was kidnapped by his father. It's been 2 weeks. Like,
Yes.
it's mind-boggling thinking of where people started out to where people ended based on the
Well, and
timeline of this
yeah,
book.
exactly. The timeline is what makes it less believable.
Right.
If you have this stretched out over a longer period of time, it's a lot easier to believe that there's ups and downs in his relationship with his dad
Yes.
because it's like, okay, it's been months. They had some time to restore the relationship through
His
this
dad's a
because
dick. Fine, we
yeah,
can believe that. Like,
and then we find out, oh wait, nothing ever changed there. It was just one-sided and he manipulated him. Okay.
yeah. Also, the amount of like gates opening, it's like, yeah, of course you guys think it's the end of the world. It feels like the end of the world. Like,
Yeah, if
it's
that many
happening instantly.
cataclysmic events happened within just a few days, everyone would be really scared, like trying to figure out what's going on here.
Right? Like, it's so strange. I cannot believe it's been 2 weeks. Like, what the fuck?
Well, and I had made the comment to you, but they're in love because that is hard for me to believe too. Even if these are like, you know, like 16 to 18 year
Teenagers.
olds,
Like,
it's
no.
still hard for me to believe that I'm giving teenagers the utmost credit here and thinking that they are not going to be, after a week of knowing someone, in love.
I have gotten huge crushes on people after a week. I've never fallen in love as a teenager
You've never
after a
been like,
freaking week.
well, Nick loves you. That's
Yeah.
why we're in a situation here. It's like, what?
Sorry. And like, but like, that happened with you once for someone. You were like, oh, we've been friends for a while. Let's start dating. And they were like, I'm in love with you. And you were like, no, you're not.
Yep.
Like, calm down.
Right.
The fact that these two people are in love in high school, it's not true. You're not in love. He's just a man. Like,
Right.
he's just a man. And you're already like looking at Sal and being like, I feel his eyes on me. He's just so dark, but
And
he's
I smell
connected
his
to
soap.
Nick. And I smell his soap. And he just smells like whiskey. And couldn't you get drunk off him?
Like, okay.
Also, I really, really dislike the theme of like he's so dark and broody, but because he's a tortured soul. Like, it's never appropriate for a tortured soul to scream and berate you. Like,
Yeah. And I think we've talked about this with multiple characters. This is a thing that happens all the time where there's like a broody character or like a guy that we're supposed to like rally around, and because he has some quote unquote moral high ground, or he has like some kind of power that other people don't have, and or he's like really good at something. And it's like one of those three things usually. But it's so hard for me to get on board with like being a fan of that character when
right.
it's like they're treating other people terribly. Like, no, you can't do that. It's not an excuse. You can't just yeah, it's really difficult for me.
Right.
But yeah, Bree's obviously our favorite character. What did you think?
She's the best.
We do not like Nick too much. We're ready for him to move on.
Nick is so boring. He's just boring. Like, I
he's
don't
very
care.
boring.
Like, I'm sorry your
And
mommy
this is
does not
also just
remember
like,
you. Like, that sounds awful. He sounds like he had a horrible life. But
yeah.
even Nick doesn't, like, Nick still drinks all the freaking Kool-Aid.
Mhm.
Like, he is the first to be like, well, of course I'm gonna come back. Like, this was all based on a farce. And I do love that. I love a guy who was like, yeah, all of my threats were meaningless. Like,
Yeah.
great. Good. Not enough people admit that they're just being rebellious teenagers. But like, I do love that like Deonn made enough of a connection to be like, it doesn't really matter if I rebel. The like likelihood of me becoming Arthur is so slim. Like, why would it ever happen?
Sure.
And then like the stuff hits the fan, and you're like, oh, I guess I have to follow through now because like I technically don't get a choice, so I might as well show up for my friends and be there.
Mhm.
Great. He's loyal to his friends. I do wonder, like, what was Nick doing for the couple of years when he was rebelling? Like
Right.
what was going on?
What did
'Cause
that entail?
did you have other friends? Were you just hanging out around all of the same people all the time, all these yes people who were still obsessed with you? Because like then you are
Absolutely
still
he
kind of the
was.
worst. Like
Absolutely he was. There's no part of me that thinks he wasn't still just like hanging out with these people. He just thought he was
who
rebelling not by
worship
going
him.
to that house.
Yeah, like no, you're still around all the people who worshipped you. You're still around all these yes people. And like you are terrible to Sel in ways that are also not okay.
Yes.
Like Sel cannot hit you back. So to take advantage of that is
Mhm.
entirely inappropriate and a huge red flag. Like
Yes.
you wanting Bree to sign up as your squire, it's still a power dynamic that will be put in
Hmm.
place that puts her at a disadvantage at an already disadvantaged like place. And to do that is kind of selfish of you. Like it
It'll be interesting to see, like, going into the next book, how Bree and Nick's relationship is, because I can see him struggling with the fact that she is Arthur and
Mhm.
the one in charge and not
Yeah.
him.
He's just so boring. Like, what does this man do at all? He
You and I do not like this type of person in general, so
no.
I think that it's hard for us to be like, oh, yay, Nick, because you and I are not drawn to that type of person.
Yeah. The best thing I can say about
So
him is
yeah,
he
we don't
really
we don't like a
loves Bree.
we don't like a privileged puppy dog guy.
No. But I
So
also hate Cell. Like Cell, I at least have an excuse for where I'm like, I don't think you're necessarily a bad person, but also I kind of do. Like, I'm so conflicted
I
because
kind of think that there's some bad moments. I will say that Cell has a lot of like moments in the book where I'm like, okay, that was funny. And
yes,
there's a few more moments where I'm like, I see more compatibility between
yes.
Cell and Bree than I do Nick and Bree.
I'm still team no one. If it were like high
Oh,
school girls
absolutely.
picking a team,
Can
like
it be Bree
run
choosing
away.
herself? Like,
Right. Like Team Bree.
absolutely.
Like I don't get Cell
But it's
in
definitely a YA
20s.
novel where
It's
it's setting it up to be one or the other.
I hope not, but yeah, I get it. It's just like I'm kind of sick of seeing boys who treat girls badly where it's like, well, he was just
Yes.
drunk. And it's like, well, let's not teach girls going into college
Right.
that a man is allowed to be mean to you when he's drinking. Like nope,
Right.
you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to speak to her that way, even if you think she's an evil creature. Like,
Hmm.
if you're wrong, she's still a person who is at a disadvantage by being the only black woman in the room. You can't act that way, even though you're
Right.
treated poorly. Like, that's not okay. It's just that's the oppression Olympics at that point, and it's not okay.
Exactly.
Um, so yeah, Cell, I think yeah, I have such a hard time talking about Cell because you're supposed to find like he has a tragic backstory. He was
Hmm.
ripped out of his mom's like hands. But like the bummer part about Cell is like anytime you're talking about what you feel bad about, it's what people are doing to him.
Hmm.
His reactions are still not okay. Like
Right.
so the way he's treated is not okay. It's never okay. The way he was birthed was not okay. His mom
Hmm.
was imprisoned until she could breed,
Yeah, that was
which
sickening.
says a lot about this community of people that they see that as an appropriate reaction of like, well,
Hmm.
she's so powerful, let's breed her.
Hmm.
That again is chattel slavery pretty much. That's like a lot of the precepts of chattel slavery is what I mean. But like
Right.
it's gross, it's disgusting. We can all admit that. And like Cell doesn't have a lot of his own agency. Those are all
Hmm.
very tragic. But because we mostly see him interacting with a person who is in a different power dynamic until the very end of the book, it's not a good look that he's also reactionary and terrible. And that's the
Right.
problem. So,
Absolutely.
um,
Yeah, I think you really nailed it on that one.
yeah. So I just have a lot of thoughts on that guy. But I do want to turn it back a little bit to another theme of this, which is the
Sure.
uniqueness of Bree's powers and what that says. Because I think that there's a lot
Hmm.
to be said that Bree's root magic makes her a better incarnation of Arthur. Because they often, in the final sections of this book, they talk about the fact that Arthur is able to speak through her. And there is like that push and pull of like, she obviously wants to gain control in the future if he gets called out because she doesn't like that he's able to speak through her.
Right.
But they talk about how unique it is that she can interact with Arthur, how like Arthur is not usually like that with a lot of the other people. And like it makes her a more effective Arthur in some ways because he's able to like take knowledge and she's able to see it and understand it in a way
Sure.
that they haven't yet. And I really like that that comes from her root magic, because there's
Mm-hmm.
also there's like the other side of that coin where it's like, well, her power comes from pain from her
Mm-hmm.
ancestry, because of what happened to her ancestor to like enable Arthur to be put inside her, in this future
Yes.
incarnation. And that is painful and it is hard, and she has to come to terms with that, and that is unfair. But it's actually her ancestry to, like her power as a Black woman that makes her inherently more valuable as Bree, more
Yes.
so than any of the other characters who are only powerful because of the white men that are locked into them. And
Well,
I
and it's
do like
explained too
that.
that there's a big difference between the way that the root magic works
Mhm.
versus the way that the people in the society like use their power, where it's just a
Yes.
taking of power versus kind of a sharing of power
Mhm.
from the ancestors and how much they will give to the people who have root magic.
And you and I also talk about this in themes of other fantasy novels we've read, where it's like sometimes when men write about women, it's all about like, well, women, if they were as powerful as men, would just want the same powers that men have. And it's like, nope,
Mm-hmm.
women are different people. So
Yep.
our goals may be different. I like that Tracy Deonn creates a magical system that is purely based on like a Black culture, that is like, no, it's
Mm-hmm.
conversation and it's ancestry and it's a discussion of like what we lose when we don't have our full
Yes.
ancestry. And that's beautiful and it's complicated and it is not based on white beliefs of what makes power. Um,
Absolutely.
and I love that, and I think it's fascinating, and I love seeing that, because like it's our biggest thing of like reading white male authors sometimes sucks
Mm-hmm.
because you're just reading a white male view of the world and how it
Yep.
works, instead of this
Power's
beautiful
always right
intricate.
there.
And it's the whole like, and it's a good perspective of it, of like you have these people who tie themselves to the men that come before them,
Mm-hmm.
and they tie themselves to that power and they keep it continuing, instead of just appreciating where they came from and having it be a conversation of,
Yes.
that's what makes me powerful, is
And
being
also
able.
just a feeling of being entitled to this
Yes.
power
Hmm.
versus being appreciative of what your ancestors have gone through, and to respect and learn about their
Hmm.
situations the way that they all seem to do,
Hmm.
and to kind of share with each other and benefit from past experiences.
Exactly. And so I really enjoy the way that Tracy Deonn like talks about power and talks about this, like these different types of things. And even how like, I like that she points out in this novel that like tying yourself to this entitlement of, I'm going to keep this power because because my ancestor had it and now I will keep it with me and I will
Mm-hmm.
use it. And she's like, that doesn't make you more powerful. Karma will come to get you at some point. And it's like,
Right.
yeah, that is probably very true. And like, I just appreciate all those times where she's building that type of like power system and structure in the different types of power we see.
Absolutely. Completely agree. This is such a well-written book that I feel like a lot of this is kind of like sneakily put in here, if that
Yes.
makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
because it's you and I have said before, like this book should be like required reading in schools because it's so deep and has all these kind of hidden themes and messages that need to be discussed by people of all ages, really. And
Yeah.
Tracy Deonn does a wonderful job bringing these things in while also making a really interesting fantasy story.
Yes.
Like all of these things are prevalent here, but there's also just a really interesting fantasy story that's happening. You and I got confused, but we get confused by all fantasy. So,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not unique to this book, but it's something that I think we need to be having more people read because it's an accessible way to kind of open people up to being more understanding of the experiences of others.
Mm-hmm.
And
Agreed.
I'm not saying that this is the be all end all, like everyone should read this book and then racism is cured. Like that's not how it works. That's not
but
how
that
it works.
is what she's saying. No.
But that is it. No. That's not it at all. But
Right.
I do think that it's a good opportunity for people to read a book like this and to be more understanding of the situations that other people are going through and how you can be that well-meaning person or have that internalized racism or sexism or any kind of phobia that there could be and not realize it and need to do a little work to recognize the struggles that other people are going through and check your privilege. So these are all important things. Another thing I just wanted to point out, we said it before, but Tracy Deonn does a great job of writing characters for the ages that they are and also just like writing characters for the situations that they are in.
Mm-hmm.
Because like even the privileged white lady and Nick's dad, they make complete sense the way that they react to things and it's completely believable. The kids of their ages, they say things that kids their age would say. It's never a situation where I'm reading something and I'm like, a teenager would never say that. Like,
right? Like, yeah.
Because I do read YA books where I'm like, okay, that sounds very adult for a teenager to say. I think Deonn does a great job at that.
And I think she writes good friendships and she writes good she also writes good high
believable
school
relationships.
Yes, because they fall in love too fast. But I do appreciate where it's like, oh yeah, you do meet people in high school where you're like, we're best friends, and then a semester later you're like, I cannot stand that person. Why did I like them? And it's like, yeah, because when you first try to meet people and you get introduced to these places, you're like, oh, perfect. I fit in here. Thank you. And then you find out later, like, nope, these are not my people, that I'm not safe here. And I do feel like Bree kind of has to be put through the ringer on that.
Unfortunately,
yes. And then she has to learn and relearn those things, which is also very high school to have to learn something and then be like, but maybe. And it's like, no, ma'am.
Right.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah. All right.
Any other thoughts?
No, I don't think I have any others. I think I feel pretty solid on this. Do you have any other thoughts?
I don't think there's a lot of depth to go into on the characters really, because like we said, even the ones that we get to see, like Sarah and Tor or whatever, it's just kind of in and out with them. We don't get a lot of depth. We just get kind of glimpses into their characters. A lot of them are horny. So
Tor's going to be terrible because in the final one, she's like, well, I'm third in line, so I'm in charge. And they're all like, you're literally not. And it's just like, but she doesn't deserve it. I got the door tour. I got the door tour. I'm popular to boot. I'm bitching. Gray hair. The boys all love to stare. I'm on it. I'm hot. I'm everything you're not. I'm pretty. I'm cool. I dominate the school. Who am I?
I transferred from Los Angeles. Your school has no gymnastic team. This is
the last resort.
Watched that movie way too many times.
Oh my gosh. What? There were so many lines, even as a child, I was like, that doesn't make sense. Where it's like, Missy's the poo, so take a big whiff. It's like, no. Okay, again, with teenagers being written like they're not teenagers, that line is the epitome of that. Where it's Missy's the poo, so take a whiff. What was that?
That movie needed Tracy Deonn for so many reasons.
Right?
That's not even scratching the surface of why we needed Tracy Deonn to write that movie.
Also a great movie about internalized racism and white women stealing from Black inner city areas to become cool and award winning. What a great movie that as a child I was like, oh no, the main characters didn't win, and as an adult I'm like, yeah, they shouldn't have
won. They stole
and they got to the nationals on a technicality. No, they shouldn't have won. And so at the ending where she's like, you guys were better, and she's like, we really were. It's like, yeah, they really were. They were better.
Yes, they were better.
A weird time of our lives where it's like, let's not follow the actual heroes of that story, but Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah. I thought you meant the Kirsten Dunst was the
No,
hero.
like let's not follow the
Yeah.
heroes, like the
Yeah.
Clovers.
Gabrielle Union and the hero, like the Clovers, were the heroes.
I know. We instead followed Kirsten Dunst, and
Yeah.
now
And
we get
all of
Legendborn. So,
her awfulness. Oh.
oh God,
But yes, I don't know that there's much more to say that we haven't already said.
let's
And
bring it on.
this happens at such a fast pace that really the only characters I feel like you need to do any kind of like deep dive into are Bree, Patricia, Selnick.
Yeah, that's about it.
Alice needs to be a little
Patricia.
more understanding.
Mhm. Patricia needs to just become a guidance counselor. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
that
Like,
that's maybe the biggest change, the second biggest change that should have been made. The
yes,
biggest change was stretch this out over a larger
yes.
period of time.
And the third biggest change is do not make Cell verbally abusive.
Yes.
Yeah, like don't do it. But a
But
great book.
overall, really
Love
liked it.
this. I cannot wait for book 2 to
I
see where
know.
we go. Um, we do have a break in the week, guys.
Yes.
We, take breaks in
In
between each
between
book,
book.
to give us a little bit of breathing space.
Yes. So we won't be
So,
back to Bloodmarked for a couple weeks.
but we will be having a very special episode with Namina Forna.
Yay!
Namina Forna is an amazing author, also YA, who wrote The Gilded Ones and The Merciless Ones.
And
These
then
are
her new book, The Eternal Ones, is coming out
coming out in
soon.
February. So we are having her on the pod to discuss the first 2 books and to kind of highlight her third book coming out. We cannot wait for this episode to drop. We're very
Yes.
excited. And make sure you're picking up those books right now. They're really good.
They're really good. Like you had talked about this previously because you did a buddy read with Dylan of FTF,
Yes.
and you guys had the discussion of like, are these actually YA? And I think that's a valid discussion because there's a lot of things that happen in these that are very adult.
Very
And
adult. Within the first
the
chapter, you're like, whoa. Like,
yes.
yes.
And the
Uh,
themes within those books are just boundless. Like there's so many different things to get into in terms of religion and patriarchy and questioning societal roles, like
yes.
so many different things.
So join us for that author interview next week. And then we will be doing our deep dive into Bloodmarked, book 2 in Tracy Loans. And also make sure that you are voting in our indie mission. Our indie mission
Yay.
announcement of authors, I believe that's earmarked for me to publish on Wednesday. To kind of mark those books. Usually what we do is we draw names for 24 books to go head to head at this point because the list has gotten too long to just continue to
We
grow.
appreciate all these suggestions, but
Yes.
unfortunately we can't make a bracket that big.
We can't make a bracket that big, and I cannot make the voting go on for that long.
Yeah, so Hannah just
Unfortunately.
makes a wheel thing that she spins and it just randomly selects which ones are going to be on there.
Exactly. So make sure you are voting in that. Look at the announcement for those. We're so excited, as always, to highlight these indie authors. Make sure you're picking up their books and reading them as well. We have some great bonus content coming for you in the future, so just keep an eye out for all of that as we kind of figure out our scheduling and everything with the new year. We apologize for any delays in that. It takes a village, and sometimes it takes us getting back into the swing of things in the new year.
We're getting organized and everything too, so it's
a labor of love, but it's a little bit more labor right now.
We're trying to collaborate with other parties and everything too, so it's hard to get all these things out there until they're kind of set in stone.
Exactly. But we do have some great bonus content coming out in the future. As just announced, we are also seeing Adrian Gibson on our pod in March for his new indie book that is being published in March. So make sure you stay tuned for
Mushroom
that.
Blues.
Well. We were very blessed to be part of the cover reveal for that. So make sure you're keeping an eye out for all of that wonderful content coming your way. Also, please make sure to tell a friend about us. This is a labor of love, and we love to have new people join the conversation. We usually get some people with each new series we do who are just like, oh, I've never heard your stuff, but I'm interested. So make sure you tell friends as we do Legendborn. It's a very new series for us. And make sure you're rating, reviewing, and subscribing. Subscribe to us at WWR Pod on all the platforms, including ourpod.com. check out our Patreon. We have some bonus content coming up. In January, we are doing Friends Pitching, where we each pitch books or TV series that we think the other should be watching. So lots of fun stuff over there as well. And just, keep in touch. Join us on Discord. We love having
People
friends
come
over
talk
there.
to me. I'm talking to myself over there a lot of times.
I know. I have a job that unfortunately, like, I'm sitting right next to my boss, and I'm like, I can't text on this as much. So
Hassett was kind enough to talk with me the other day, but we need some more people to chat with us. We need some
fresh blood, guys. So head on over and check us out there, and join us next week with our wonderful author interview with Namina Forna. Bye.
Bye.